Back in high school, I was watching TV with my family when a commercial came on. There was nothing really special or interesting about it, other than the fact that it ended with a surprised-looking middle-aged man, and my brother said, "Hey, it's Al Bundy." I immediately said, "No, that's not Ed O'Neill." Then everyone in my family disagreed with me and said it was.
Please just smite me before I get to the Y in Bundy.
Now, at the time, he was in a lot of commercials for 1-800-COLLECT, which I explained to my family. They explained that you're allowed to be in more than one type of commercial. Which is true, but then I explained to them that if he did do another type of commercial, he would still look like Ed O'Neill.
Dude.
They were sure that they were right. I was sure that I was right, because I was right. It's been over 20 years, and none of us have been able to find this commercial again. In the years since, if we saw him in anything, like Dragnet or Modern Family, the conversation would start again, and we'd realize that our opinions had not changed. They think that I'm just stubborn. I mean, everybody agreed that I was wrong.
Let me tell you something. I might be a pretty face, but I fight to win. Just like Legally Blonde.
And I think that they're just really bad at recognizing actors because they have proven that over and over again for the last 20 years.
Ably played by Bill Paxton.
It's Bill Poelman, you fool!
But there's also something about us humans that makes it hard for us to admit when we are wrong.
Why do we have a hard time to say, I'm wrong, I'm sorry?
We are wired. We're actually wired to not disturb our self-image. There was an amazing study done by a social psychologist. He joined a group of people who believed the world was going to end at 4 a.m. on a particular day. The group gave away, sold their houses, gave away their possessions, collected themselves at a house, waited 4 o'clock for a flying saucer to take them away. When it didn't happen, the people who'd given up the most actually believed they were just saved and it was going to happen again.
Which is fine if it's something as simple as arguing about an actor for over 20 years. But what if you're wrong about something like the state of your soul, or what happens to you after you die? What happens when the stakes are higher? Just a bit of a trigger warning before we get started. There is some talk about abuse. Again. And I'm sorry. Hey everybody, thank you for liking and subscribing and commenting and whatever else helps the algorithm gods. I've put the links down below for our social media. Come join the party there, as well as our Patreon. Pretty good at getting us to monetize, so that really does help. And we have fun over there. When you start to question your faith, it starts as a simple question. What if I'm wrong? You read a Bible story that seems to change the image of who you thought God was. You read about an archaeological study that seems to disprove parts of the Bible.
Hey, these guys just found the skull of Goliath!
You start to wonder if you should really see certain people as sinners or rebelling against God instead of just being who they are.
It's unnatural. I think that it's detrimental and ultimately destructive to so many of the foundations of civilization.
But then as the doubting gets stronger, another voice pops up saying, what if I'm wrong to question this? What if I'm being tempted or tested and I'm failing that test?
I have doubts. I have such doubt.
And then when you do walk away from your faith, it's no longer just the voice in your head saying, what if I'm wrong? It could be people like this guy asking, what if you're wrong?
If I'm wrong about what I believe, okay, I don't really lose much, okay, but if the non-Christian, the person who's rejected Christ, if they're wrong, so for 70 or 80 years, okay, I don't lose a lot, okay, I've had a great life as a Christian, I've followed God, I've had lots of joy in my heart, but a non-Christian, if he fulfills himself with all the pleasure of the world.
Wait. Pleasures of the world. Is he referring to like a really nice Sumatra roast? Because I could go for one of those. Hey, Jagger, I'm heading out for a minute. I'm just going to the coffee store. I'm going to get some pleasures of the world.
8 hours later.
That's good.
If he's wrong, then he spends eternity, millions upon billions of years, where time doesn't exist, in a place where it says the worm does not die. It's a place of weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth.
And this is a question you're going to hear all the time. But what if you're wrong? Or on the flip side, what if I'm right?
says, but I don't believe in that. It is appointed unto God to man once to die, and after that the judgment. But I don't believe, there's a bunch of hooey. It is appointed to man once to die, and after that the judgment. You leave him, and that'll come back, and he says, wow, what if she's right?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
You see, if there is no heaven, if there is no hell, if the Bible is nothing more than a book of fanciful fairy tales, then when I die, and I've lost nothing. But if Jesus is the only way to heaven, and if heaven and hell are real, and if you do have to make a choice as to whether you receive Jesus or not, then when you die, if that's true, then you've lost everything.
This is something called Pascal's wager. You see, Blaise Pascal was a mathematician in the 17th century who made some arguments for the existence of God and came up with this little bet.
So Pascal says, so go ahead, believe in God. What are you waiting for? If God exists and you bet on him, you get everything. If God does not exist and you bet on him, you lose nothing.
When she kisses me, I'm in heaven.
Snake eyes. Snake eyes? Snake eyes?
Oh, no!
Should a man be in error in supposing the Christian religion to be true, he could not be a loser by mistake. But how irreparable is his loss, and how inexpressible his danger, who should err in supposing it to be false.
So basically it works like this. If you believe in God and he does exist, you go to heaven and get free ice cream or whatever for eternity. If you believe in God and he doesn't exist, then nothing happens when you die. But if you don't believe in God and he does exist, you end up spending eternity in hell getting eaten by worms while also on fire. And if you don't believe in God and he doesn't exist, then you're fine, so nothing will happen when you die. So the best bet is bet on believing in God.
Put it on black!
It's red.
Because it isn't an argument for the existence of God. It's an argument for why you should believe in God if reason can't decide.
Exactly. It's not an argument for whether or not God exists. It's an argument for why you should believe he exists, which is a very big difference. But that's not the point, is it? No, the point is that if you let God into your life, then your life will be better.
Even though I have to lose some of those things, in the end it ends up being a benefit anyway, because in believing in God, I'm becoming more virtuous, hopefully more charitable, more prudent, and that'll make for a more happy life.
You'll be a better person for it.
But what I get in God is more than that. So if your test is some kind of a temporary fulfillment of your 70 years and 10, I have found it in my spiritual belief. But I have found more than that. I found the truth, and I found an eternal destiny. So your test I have already met. My test you have not met.
And how did that work out for you, Ravi?
By now, I am sure that if you have not been living under a rock, pretty much everybody in the Christian space is aware of the sexual misconduct allegations that have now been confirmed by Ravi Zacharias International Ministries.
The 12-page report confirms abuse by Zacharias at day spas that he owned in Atlanta. It uncovers additional victims in the U.S. and shows evidence of sexual abuse in India and Malaysia.
We know that simply praying and saying you believe in God doesn't make you a better person. Ironically, in my opinion, what makes you a better person is taking a look at yourself and asking, what do I need to change? What prejudices and biases do I need to get rid of? In other words, it's taking a look at yourself and admitting where you are wrong. And let's go back to that Greg Locke clip.
So at the end of the day, if I'm wrong, I've really lost nothing. I've enjoyed my life, helped a lot of people, stirred up some controversy, and I go to the ground and rot. But if you're wrong, hell's real. Hell's hot. There's a holy, righteous God with whom you have to do.
Do you think he uses that same logic in other areas of his life? Like, say, the pandemic?
The sickness is real. I'm saying the pandemic is not.
I don't understand what you mean when you say pandemic's not real.
Pandemic is not real.
But what do you think a pandemic is?
Not COVID-19.
Well, what if you're wrong there, Greggy? If there is a pandemic and you act the way you act, you could get a lot of people, including yourself, sick or dead.
If they go through round 2 and you start showing up all these masks and all this nonsense, I'll ask you to leave.
But if there is no pandemic and you act like there is, You just get a vaccine for a disease you've acknowledged is real, and you put a piece of cloth that you already own on your face.
These are gags, ladies and gentlemen. These have become idols. These don't do anything whatsoever.
To me, it seems like a safe bet.
Pastor who promised to keep preaching through the pandemic, quote, unless I'm in jail or the hospital, has now died from the coronavirus. Bishop Gerald Glenn was an evangelical pastor in Virginia.
Veronica Wolski gained notoriety for documenting her own protests, including the one where she harassed Staples employees over their store's mask policy. Well, her death has prompted outrage from the far right, which claims the hospital refused to treat her with the livestock deworming medication ivermectin.
That's right! Praising mask burnings, calling a health official promoting vaccine an absolute enemy of a free people, and last Friday echoing a claim vaccines don't really work anyway. But just after posting that, according to a GoFundMe page set up for his family, Apley was admitted to a hospital, diagnosed with COVID, and by Tuesday, he was dead.
But these people aren't using this logic because they've thought it through. They use it because it makes them feel superior. They're saying, I'm right and you're wrong. And even if that's not true, I don't care, because I'm still better than you.
So if there is no God, no harm, no foul. If there is a God, then you're in a heap of trouble.
And it's not even biblical.
Well, well, well. Table for surprised party of me.
When I was a kid, I learned about a thing called hell insurance.
We're going to talk about hell insurance. Need a quote? No.
Good one.
Hell insurance is not something we should seek for our lives or for that of our children. Hell insurance, I'm portraying to you as something that often kids will pray a prayer when they're young because they don't want to go to hell. But are they really born again?
Saying a prayer or going to church just so you can avoid hell would have made you a lukewarm Christian, and God would spit you out. And I still don't really understand why God was trying to eat us in the first place.
We've learned how to talk like church folk. We've learned how to walk like church folk. But in reality, we are not Christians. And so although we attend church and although we believe in Jesus, probably much more like you believe in Abraham Lincoln than you believe in a God you could serve and follow.
The Bible also basically said that if you believe in God and you're wrong, you're the moron. Or how this guy said it.
Paul's like, you want to know a pitiful person? It's someone who trusts in Jesus if Jesus isn't true. It's a person who bases their whole life on the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, but he didn't actually rise from the dead. Paul said, that's not great. That's not a great wager. That's pitiful.
And of course there's the fact that this isn't a flip of a coin.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
The God they believe in is just one of many gods that people currently believe or have believed.
Hey, how about one of those religions where you eat a human heart? No. How about Methodist? No.
So it's also about choosing the right God when you choose that believing in God column, let alone gods we haven't even thought of yet. Like what if there's a God who is really shy, so much so that if anyone starts believing in God, he will send them to hell? Then we have to believe the opposite way. But the thing is, this binary thinking is the core of most of Christian apologetics. The argument usually goes something like, we don't know how something works, therefore God did it, or even I don't understand how something works, therefore God did it.
There is no way that the human eye has evolved and emerged out of nothing or out of mud or out of slime.
Evolution starts with what's already there, tinkers with it and modifies it, but can never do a grand redesign. So even the eye, with all of its optical perfection, has clues to the fact that its origin is of the blind process of natural selection.
I don't understand how life started, therefore Christian God.
How did abiogenesis occur? I mean, the notion that something can come from nothing. Where's the evidence? Well, you're going to need another something from nothing leap of faith, some kind of biological second Big Bang. For all the mind-blowing advancements we've made in physics, biology, and chemistry in just the past 100 years, we're still no closer to making it happen. We don't have a clue. The closer we look, the wider the chasm.
I don't understand how the universe started, therefore Christian God.
Hugh Ross, who heads up Reasons to Believe,
sees God in the universe's birth.
It has a beginning, which implies there must be a beginner that was responsible for bringing the universe into existence.
You smell that?
So what caused the universe? You see, if you don't believe in a creator, then you have to suggest something.
Science is a liar sometimes.
You see, the thing is, science isn't about having all the answers. That's religion. Science is about finding the answers. Science is about admitting when we don't understand something. Science says it's okay that we don't know something. It means that there's something else to figure out. Science is about replacing our old understanding and admitting that we were wrong in the past.
According to the Royal Society, the world's oldest independent scientific academy, the answer is quite the opposite. Questioning established facts is actually at the heart of the scientific method.
But let's go back to Pascal for a minute and flip his wager around. What does the religious person lose if they are wrong? It could be something as simple as they've wasted a lot of Sunday mornings sitting through boring sermons. Or they could also, I don't know, force a tiny town to give up dancing.
If our Lord wasn't testing us, how would you account for the proliferation these days of this obscene rock and roll music with its gospel?
They could teach young people damaging purity culture nonsense.
What's going to happen by the 6th, 7th, 8th time? Eventually, this piece of tape will not be able to stick to anything at all. And my dear friends, that is what it is like when you and I give our bodies to other people.
They could yell at teenagers who are just trying to enjoy themselves at the beach.
Young eyes into consideration. They don't need to see pornography right in front of their eyes.
We're not coming up to you, bothering you. Please go away.
You're flaunting your stuff.
And then later make a spoken word video about cancel culture.
So I take a stand against cancel culture, for they love death just like vultures. They claw and gnaw until there's nothing left. And pride is written all over their chest, and they're obsessed with the narrative of being oppressed.
Or they could end up being Paul and Morgan. And just a quick warning here, they are about to misgender Demi Lovato, and it's as awful as it sounds.
Demi Lovato has changed her pronouns. I'm assuming that she was okay with being called a she up until recently. This is going to be interesting.
Douche chill.
It's tough. The world we live in, 2021 America and worldwide, is confusing.
There.
All for what, a wager, a gamble that they chose the right God that will get them into heaven?
I'm ruined! You jinxed them!
What? I did not.
Yeah, you did! You owe me 50 grand!
Here's the deal. You don't have to know everything.
When they say 2% milk, I don't know what the other 98% is.
You don't have to have all the answers.
Leslie, I typed your symptoms into the thing up here, and it says you could have network connectivity problems.
You don't have to be sure that you are right about everything.
I can't change their mind. I won't change my mind, because I don't have to. Because I'm an American.
It's okay to admit when you're wrong.
Takes a big man to admit when he's wrong. I am not a big man.
It's always okay to question things. Question everything. I've said before that you can't make yourself believe something that you don't believe in, and people have told me that I'm wrong. And maybe I am. I'm not the sharpest shirt in the Happy Meal. But do you want to live a life lying to yourself and forcing yourself to believe something? Or do you want to live a life being honest with yourself? Ultimately, it's up to you. Thanks so much for making it this far. If you know somebody who might like this, send it their way. And thanks everybody for stopping by.
Work, Sky Moon.
When you start to question your faith. Should I sing it?